I never thought I'd be posting here, but I guess life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. I am John 35M, and I've been married to Sarah 33F for 7 years. We met in college, fell head over heels, and tied the knot soon after graduation. Everything seemed perfect. Great jobs, a beautiful home, and plans to start a family. Looking back, I should have noticed the signs. Sarah started working later, canceling our date nights, and spending more time on her phone. But I trusted her completely. I mean, why wouldn't I? She was my wife, my best friend, the person I thought I'd grow old with. Little did I know that my world was about to come crashing down in the most spectacular and humiliating way possible. It all started when Sarah told me about the big staff party her company was throwing. They'd rented out this massive yacht for the weekend, talk about extravagant. She was all excited, chattering about what to wear and how it was going to be this couple's event. I remember thinking it was weird that her boss, Mike 45M, was so insistent on partners coming along. "You have to come, John," Sarah pleaded, her eyes wide. "Everyone's bringing their significant other. It'll look strange if you're not there." I should have picked up on her nervousness, the way she couldn't quite meet my eyes. But I was clueless, agreeing easily because I thought it'd be a fun getaway for us. The day of the party arrived, and as we boarded the yacht, I couldn't shake this uneasy feeling in my gut. Something felt off, but I couldn't put my finger on it. If only I'd known then what I know now. The yacht was incredible, all sleek lines and luxury. Couples milled about, drinks in hand, laughing and chatting. I noticed Sarah scanning the crowd, her posture tense. When she spotted Mike, her whole demeanor changed. She visibly relaxed, a smile spreading across her face. "Oh, there's Mike!" she exclaimed. "Let's go say hi!" As we approached, Mike's eyes locked onto Sarah, and I swear I saw something pass between them. He barely acknowledged me as he greeted her, his hand lingering a bit too long on her lower back. "Sarah, darling, you look stunning," he purred, his gaze roaming over her body. "John, good to see you could make it." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. The way they looked at each other, the casual intimacy, it was all wrong. But surely I was imagining things, right? Sarah wouldn't. She couldn't. Little did I know the night was about to get a whole lot worse. As the evening wore on, Sarah became increasingly distant. She kept disappearing for long stretches, always with some flimsy excuse. "Oh, I'm just freshening up," she'd say, or, "I'm helping Karen with a wardrobe malfunction." Each time she returned, her lipstick was slightly smudged, her hair a little messier. I tried to brush it off, but the knot in my stomach grew tighter. Then I overheard a conversation that made my blood run cold. 2 women were whispering near the bar, unaware I was within earshot. "Can you believe Sarah and Mike?" one giggled. "They're not even trying to hide it anymore." "I know," the other replied. "Poor John. He must be the only one who doesn't know." My world tilted on its axis. Suddenly, all the little oddities of the past few months crystallized into a horrifying picture. But I needed proof. I needed to see it with my own eyes. So I decided to do something I never thought I'd do. I started to spy on my own wife. With my heart pounding, I began discreetly following Sarah around the yacht. It wasn't easy given the crowded deck and multiple levels, but I managed to keep her in sight. After about 20 minutes of this cat-and-mouse game, I saw her slip into a private cabin with Mike. I stood outside the door, my ear pressed against it, feeling sick to my stomach. The sounds coming from inside left no doubt about what was happening. I heard Sarah's breathy moans, Mike's grunts, and the unmistakable rhythmic creaking of a bed. "Oh, Mike, yes, don't stop," Sarah cried out. I stumbled back, feeling like I'd been gut-punched. Part of me wanted to burst in there, to confront them both. But another part, the part that was quickly shutting down emotionally, told me to wait, to gather more evidence, to make sure there was no possible way Sarah could lie her way out of this. So I did something I'm not proud of. I took out my phone and I started recording. I stood there, phone in hand, recording the sounds of my wife's betrayal for what felt like an eternity. When the noises finally stopped, I quickly moved away from the door and found a hidden spot nearby. I watched as Sarah and Mike emerged, both looking disheveled and flushed. "That was amazing," Sarah purred, straightening her dress. "But we should get back to the party before John starts wondering where I am." Mike chuckled, his hand groping her ass. "Let him wonder. It's not like he suspects anything." "True," Sarah laughed. He's so clueless. Sometimes I feel bad for him, you know? Don't, Mike replied. If he can't satisfy you, that's his problem. Now one more kiss before we rejoin the sheep. They embraced passionately, and I had to bite my lip to keep from screaming. As they parted and headed back to the main deck, I slumped against the wall trying to process what I'd just witnessed. My wife, my Sarah, the woman I loved more than anything in this world. She'd not only cheated on me, but was actively mocking me behind my back. The betrayal cut deep, leaving me feeling hollow and numb. But as the initial shock wore off, a new emotion began to take its place: rage. I composed myself as best I could and made my way back to the party, my mind racing with possible ways to confront Sarah. I spotted her chatting animatedly with a group of co-workers, acting as if nothing had happened. The sight of her laughing and smiling made my blood boil. I approached the group, plastering on a fake smile. "Sarah, honey, can I talk to you for a moment, in private?" She looked annoyed at the interruption, but nodded. "Sure, John. Excuse me, everyone." We found a quiet corner of the deck, and I struggled to keep my voice steady. "Where have you been? I've been looking all over for you." Sarah's face was the picture of innocence. "Oh, I was just mingling, catching up with co-workers. You know how these things are." The lie slipped so easily from her lips, it made me wonder how many times she'd done this before. I decided to push further. "Really? Because I could have sworn I saw you go into a cabin with Mike earlier." For a split second, panic flashed in her eyes, but she quickly recovered. "What? Don't be ridiculous, John. Why would I do that? You must have seen someone else." As she continued to lie to my face, something inside me snapped. I couldn't hold back any longer. "Cut the bullshit, Sarah!" I hissed, my voice low and dangerous. "I know exactly what you've been doing. I heard everything." Sarah's face paled, but she still tried to maintain her innocent act. "John, I don't know what you think you heard, but—" I cut her off, pulling out my phone. I didn't just hear it. I recorded it. I pressed play, and the sounds of her passionate encounter with Mike filled the air between us. Sarah's mask finally cracked. Her eyes widened in shock, then narrowed in anger. "You recorded us? How dare you invade my privacy like that?" I laughed bitterly. "Your privacy? That's rich coming from someone who's been screwing her boss behind her husband's back. How long has this been going on, Sarah? How long have you been lying to me?" She crossed her arms defensively. "It's not what you think, John. Mike and I, we have a connection. You wouldn't understand." "You're right, I don't understand," I spat. "I don't understand how you could throw away our marriage for some sleazy office affair. Was our life together really that terrible?" Sarah's expression hardened. "You want the truth? Fine. I've been unhappy for a long time, John. You're boring, predictable. Mike excites me in ways you never could." Each word was like a knife to my heart, but I wasn't about to let her see how much she'd hurt me. Instead, I decided it was time to take control of the situation. My vision blurred with rage as Sarah's cruel words sank in. All the love, trust, and memories we'd shared seemed to crumble away, leaving nothing but bitter ashes. "Boring? Predictable?" I snarled, my voice rising. "I've given you everything, Sarah, my heart, my soul, our future together, and this is how you repay me?" Sarah rolled her eyes, her demeanor shifting from defensive to outright bitchy. "Oh, please, don't act so high and mighty. You're not perfect either, John." "I never claimed to be perfect," I shouted, not caring who heard at this point. "But I was faithful. I was committed. I loved you with everything I had." People were starting to stare, but I couldn't bring myself to care. Sarah glanced around nervously, clearly more concerned about her reputation than our imploding marriage. "Keep your voice down," she hissed. "You're making a scene." "A scene?" I laughed bitterly. "You want a scene? I'll give you a scene." Without thinking, I stormed over to the ship's intercom system. Sarah's eyes widened in horror as she realized what I was about to do. "John, don't you dare!" But it was too late. I grabbed the mic, my finger hovering over the broadcast button. It was time for everyone to know the truth. I took a deep breath, my finger still hovering over the intercom button. But as I looked at Sarah's panicked face, something inside me shifted. This wasn't who I was. I didn't want to stoop to her level or cause a scene that would only make things worse. Instead, I slowly lowered my hand and turned to face her. "You know what? You're not worth it. Neither of you are. Sarah's relief was palpable but short-lived as I continued. I'm done, Sarah. We're done. I deserve better than this. Better than you. I pulled off my wedding ring and tossed it at her feet. I hope you and Mike are very happy together. You deserve each other. With that, I turned and walked away, leaving Sarah standing there, mouth agape. As I made my way through the crowd, I spotted Mike watching us from a distance. Our eyes met, and I saw a flicker of guilt cross his face. Good. Let him feel it. I approached the captain, explained that there was an emergency, and asked to be taken back to shore immediately. As the yacht turned back, I stood at the railing watching the waves and feeling a strange mix of pain and relief. This wasn't the end I had expected for my marriage, but maybe, just maybe, it was the beginning of something new. As I stood at the railing, the cool ocean breeze helped clear my head. The initial shock and anger were subsiding, replaced by a profound sadness and sense of loss. 7 years of marriage gone in an instant. But amidst the pain, I felt a glimmer of something else. Hope. The yacht docked and I disembarked without a backward glance. I hailed a taxi and gave the driver my address, then pulled out my phone. With shaking hands, I dialed my best friend Tom. "Hey man, what's up?" Tom's cheerful voice answered. "Tom, I need a place to stay tonight. Can I crash at your place?" My voice cracked as I spoke. There must have been something in my tone because Tom's demeanor immediately changed. "Of course, buddy. What happened? Are you okay?" I took a deep breath. "Sarah, she's been cheating on me, with her boss. I caught them tonight at the company party." "Holy shit," Tom breathed. "I'm so sorry, John. Come over right away. Well, figure this out together." As I ended the call, I felt a small wave of relief. At least I wasn't completely alone in this. I redirected the taxi to Tom's address, ready to start picking up the pieces of my shattered life. Little did I know, the night still had one more surprise in store for me. As the taxi pulled up to Tom's apartment building, I noticed a familiar car parked across the street. It was Sarah's best friend and co-worker. My stomach churned. Had Sarah somehow beaten me here? Was she trying to spin her version of events before I could explain? I paid the driver and cautiously approached Tom's door. As I raised my hand to knock, I heard muffled voices from inside. Curiosity got the better of me, and I pressed my ear against the door. "Can't believe Sarah would do that to John," Karen's voice drifted through. "He's such a good guy." "I know," Tom replied, his voice heavy with concern. "Poor John. I hope he's okay." I felt a rush of gratitude for their support, but then Karen said something that made my blood run cold. "Tom, there's something else you should know. Something I've been keeping secret for Sarah's sake, but God, I can't do this anymore. John deserves to know the truth." My heart raced. What more could there possibly be? I held my breath, straining to hear Karen's next words. "Sarah's pregnant, Tom, and it's Mike's baby." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. I stumbled back from the door, my mind reeling from this new revelation. Just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, life had thrown me another curveball. I couldn't face Tom and Karen now, not like this. In a daze, I turned and walked away, unsure of where I was going or what I would do next. I wandered the streets aimlessly, my mind a whirlwind of emotions. The pregnancy revelation felt like a final cruel twist of the knife. Not only had Sarah betrayed our marriage, but she was carrying another man's child. The future we had planned together, the family we had dreamed of, it was all a lie. As I walked, I found myself in a small park. I collapsed onto a bench, the weight of everything finally crashing down on me. For the first time since discovering Sarah's infidelity, I allowed myself to break down. Tears streamed down my face as I sobbed, not caring who might see. Hours seemed to pass as I sat there, lost in my grief. But as the sky began to lighten with the first hints of dawn, I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. I had cried myself out, and in its place, a steely resolve began to form. I pulled out my phone and saw dozens of missed calls and messages from Sarah, Tom, and even Mike. I ignored them all and instead opened my email. With steady fingers, I composed a message to my boss, explaining that I needed to take an emergency leave of absence. Then I booked a flight to where I wasn't even sure. I just knew I needed to get away, to clear my head and figure out my next steps. As I stood up from the bench, I felt lighter somehow. The pain was still there, raw and throbbing, but alongside it was a flicker of something else, the possibility of a new beginning. I hailed a taxi and headed to the airport, leaving behind the shattered remains of my old life. Whatever came next, I knew one thing for certain. I deserved better, and I was going to find it. The next few weeks were a blur. I found myself in a small coastal town, renting a modest cabin by the beach. The sound of the waves and the salty air helped clear my head, giving me the space I needed to process everything that had happened. I ignored most of the calls and messages, only briefly responding to Tom to let him know I was safe. Sarah's messages ranged from angry accusations to tearful apologies, but I couldn't bring myself to engage. The wound was still too raw. One sunny afternoon, as I sat on the beach watching the waves, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Hello?" I said cautiously. "John? It's Lisa from HR at Sarah's company." My heart raced. Why would HR be calling me? Lisa's voice was sympathetic but professional. "I'm calling because we've become aware of some inappropriate behavior within the company. We're conducting an investigation, and we'd like to speak with you if you're willing." I sat up straighter, my mind racing. What kind of inappropriate behavior? "I can't go into details over the phone, but it involves Sarah and Mike. Your perspective could be valuable. Would you be willing to come in for a meeting?" I hesitated, torn between wanting to put this all behind me and a desire for some form of justice. Finally, I made my decision. "Yes," I said firmly. "He'll be there." As I ended the call, I realized that my peaceful retreat was coming to an end. It was time to face reality and take control of my narrative. Whatever happened next, I was determined to come out stronger on the other side. I returned to the city a few days later, steeling myself for the meeting with HR. As I walked into the company's sleek office building, I felt a mix of anxiety and determination. Lisa greeted me in a conference room along with another stern-looking man who introduced himself as the company's legal counsel. They explained that multiple employees had come forward with complaints about Mike's behavior, including allegations of sexual harassment and creating a hostile work environment. "We understand you may have information relevant to these claims," Lisa said gently. "Anything you can tell us would be strictly confidential." I took a deep breath and began to recount everything. The affair, the yacht party, the recording ID made. As I spoke, I saw the HR representatives exchange meaningful glances. When I finished, the lawyer leaned forward. "John, I want to thank you for your honesty. What you've told us corroborates other accounts we've received. We're taking this very seriously." Lisa nodded in agreement. "We're also aware of certain personal developments that may have resulted from this situation. We want to assure you that the company is prepared to offer support, including counseling services if you need them." I realized she was referring to Sarah's pregnancy. The pain of that knowledge still stung, but somehow, having it acknowledged made it feel more manageable. As the meeting concluded, I felt a weight lifting from my shoulders. For the first time since that fateful night on the yacht, I felt like I was taking back control of my life. Little did I know the biggest surprise was yet to come. As I left the office building, my phone buzzed with a text from Tom. "Hey man, can we meet? There's something important I need to tell you." Curiosity piqued. I agreed to meet him at a nearby coffee shop. When I arrived, Tom was already there, looking nervous and fidgety. "John, I'm glad you're back," he said as I sat down. "Look, there's something I've been keeping from you, and I can't do it anymore. You deserve to know the truth." My heart raced, bracing for another blow. "What is it, Tom?" He took a deep breath. "That night when you came to my place after the yacht party, Karen was there. We overheard her talking about Sarah's pregnancy." I nodded, the pain of that memory still fresh. "Yeah, I know. I heard it too." Tom's eyes widened in surprise, but he pressed on. "Well, there's more. Karen came back the next day, absolutely frantic. She'd made a huge mistake." I leaned forward, hanging on his every word. "John, Sarah isn't pregnant," Tom said quietly. Karen had misunderstood a conversation she'd overheard. She jumped to conclusions and spread false information. Sarah had been talking about a pregnancy scare Shed had months ago, before the affair even started. I sat back, stunned. The relief that washed over me was immediate and overwhelming. "Why didn't you tell me this sooner?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Tom looked ashamed. I tried to reach you, but you disappeared. I'm so sorry, man. I should have tried harder. As I processed this new information, I realized that while it didn't change Sarah's betrayal, it did change the future I'd been imagining. The path forward suddenly seemed a little clearer. The revelation about Sarah's non-existent pregnancy felt like the final piece of a complicated puzzle falling into place. As I sat there with Tom, a strange sense of calm washed over me. The roller coaster of emotions I'd been riding for weeks finally seemed to be slowing down. "Thank you for telling me, Tom," I said, genuinely grateful for his honesty, even if it came late. We talked for hours, catching up on everything I'd missed during my self-imposed exile. Tom filled me in on the fallout at Sarah's company. Mike had been fired, and Sarah had resigned in disgrace. The office gossip mill was working overtime, but for once, I found I didn't care what people were saying about me. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow through the coffee shop windows, I realized I had some decisions to make. "What are you going to do now?" Tom asked, echoing my thoughts. I took a deep breath, feeling more centered than I had in weeks. "I'm going to file for divorce," I said, the words feeling right as they left my mouth. "And then I'm going to focus on healing and rebuilding my life." Tom nodded approvingly. "I'm here for you, man, whatever you need." As we parted ways, I felt a glimmer of hope for the future. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to face it. For anyone out there going through something similar, here's what I've learned. Trust your gut. Don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. And remember, no matter how dark things seem, there is always a way forward. You're stronger than you think, and you deserve happiness and respect. This isn't the end of my story. It's just the beginning of a new chapter. And for the first time in a long time, I'm actually looking forward to seeing how it unfolds. Dear listeners, thank you for your incredible support and for tuning into my stories on YouTube. Your enthusiasm and feedback mean the world to me. Stay tuned for more exciting tales. Warm regards.